implementation and rollout of infrastructure in our various provinces. I'm responsible for the building of roads in the province of Limpopo. You alluded to the issue of, I think, the review of some of the policies that we have around supply chain procurement, particularly the definition and classifications of what is called as, what is commonly known as irregular expenditures. I think if you see from my profile, my background is that I'm an accountant by training, although now I'm building roads. The issues of compliance are close to my heart, but I think we do agree that there is definitely a need to review some of these things. When you talk about I think earlier, the president, when he was giving a presentation talking about the need for prompt payment to service providers and our professionals that render services to the government. We do admit that in certain instances there becomes a sense of paralysis in some of our entities when it comes to dealing with issues of procurement, because 70% of your time that you spend during the year-end audit, you spend it on supply chain matters. Your role, even as a CEO, you find that, especially those of us who've got financial year-ends that end the 31st of March, the auditors land at your entity, sometimes just before in the middle of March. They're going to leave sometimes the end of July, just before the end of June or somewhere there. And even as a CEO, you need to make sure that you are around most of the time, because on a daily basis, you are spending time haggling with auditors over what should be irregular expenditure and what is not. When you're supposed to be doing what you're supposed to do as a CEO. And spending 3 months of your time of the year as a CEO haggling with auditors over whether that invoice should have had 2 signatures or 3 signatures. When the job is actually done, it's you can understand where we come from. So, but we have to deal with that, because when the audit outcomes come and say the road agency in Limpopo has got irregular expenditures to this much, you need to go and sit and explain to the politicians who have not even read any of the circulars that come from provincial treasury or national treasury, and they tell you, Mr. Maluleke, tell us who ate the money. And you sit there, you need to explain. I think the chief procurement officer explained it quite clearly that irregular expenditure is not the fact that Mr. Maluleke or Mr. Teula or Mr. Matozo have eaten the money, as they normally call it. It's about the fact that somewhere in the organization of the service or whatever, you happened not to have ticked a particular box or whatever. It could have been just a tick. And the team of Mr. Auditor General, when they land, they say, no, that box is not ticked. You ticked 9 out of 10. Therefore, because the 10th box is not ticked, it is irregular. And we could be talking about billions or whatever. It gets classified as such. So we spend a lot of time, we are facing those type of challenges. So I'm hoping that as we address some of these challenges, Chief Procurement Officer, we will look into those things, because they've got rippling effect in terms of my fear of being caught with regular expenditure tends to permeate into the issues of areas of how we're supposed to pay the invoices. When you're supposed to pay an invoice of 5,000 rand, it has to go through 10 checks internally. Hence, you can't be paid in 30 days or 7 days, because the employees, the officials are scared to be caught out with those type of things. The Auditor General has also tabled a bill recently that is called, I forgot the name. In terms of this new bill of the Auditor General, I can be issued with a certificate as an accounting officer for having incurred those type of expenditures, and I'll be personally held accountable for it. So the effect of this is that it's just going to complicate where we were right now. My feeling is that it's just going to get worse, because even yourself as an accounting officer now, you're looking into that space to say now that I might be personally held accountable for these things, I need to double my compliance. So I'm hoping that the Chief Procurement Officer, the engagements will also include those that proposed the bill to them about the audit process and the powers of the Auditor General to issue those type of certificates, because I think it's going to bring more promises. I thought I should make those comments before I start the program director, but thank you very much for inviting me this morning to get time off of the office and come and spend this morning with you here. It's not every day that we get invited to such occasions, especially those of us who are situated in the far northern parts of this province. We appreciate coming down here to civilization here and enjoying some of the trappings of that. I believe the organization of SABTACO was formed in 1990, which means that it's been in existence longer than the democracy. And I hope that your existence has brought you closer to a vision of a transformed, sustainable built environment after so many years. But if you have not achieved it, know that you are not alone. As you are in the same boat with some of your fellow countrymen who continue to fight the struggle of trying to bring transformation in sectors and industries which continue to invest a lot of efforts and resources to invent more sophisticated barriers to entry in those sectors. And I also noticed that your theme today of the conference derives from a vision, but also emphasizes mostly the important topic of ethical leadership. And some of your core values of SABTACO talk about ethics and integrity. I think these days, every time you get into the print media or the electronic media, you are confronted with examples of ethical leadership or lack thereof, whether it be politicians, or business executives, entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, whichever way you want to call them, religious leaders, organizations who are daily accused of things such as tax evasion, negligence, misrepresentation, bribery, money laundering, falsification of qualifications, financial and audit scandals. But we are hoping that as we move forward, we will find solutions to some of these things and things will improve. You will recall that upon his appointment, the president of our country, Mr. Ramaphosa, he undertook a commitment to take this country on a new trajectory of new dawn, promising to turn the tide on corruption in government. This process was to be underpinned by the principles of consequence management in all spheres of government. And our country, ladies and gentlemen, is, as I think alluded to earlier on by one of the speakers here, is not short of institutions and guidelines on issues of ethics and ethical leadership. Chapter 10, in fact, of our Constitution states that the public administration must be governed by the democratic values and principles enshrined in the Constitution, which includes, amongst others, the principles that a high standard of professional ethics must be promoted and maintained, and services must be provided impartially, fairly, equitably, and without bias, and that the public administration must be accountable. This includes prompt payments to the service providers. And according to the Constitution, these principles are applicable to all spheres of government, organs of state, and state-owned entities. The King 4 report that was alluded to earlier on, it emphasizes the need for the boards of various entities, or even in government, to cultivate and exhibit collectively and individually characteristics of integrity, competence, responsibility, accountability, fairness, and transparency. But when we talk about ethics and ethical leadership, what are we talking about? A gentleman by the name of Paresh Soni at Mankosa published in the Financial Mail recently that, in its simplest terms, ethics or ethical behavior is knowing and doing what is right. But the difficulty is defining what is right, as different individuals, cultures, religions have their own ideas of what is right. You will know that at some point people believe that slavery was right in some stage of their histories. And to some people, the ethical leadership is the opposite of corrupt leadership. I think closer home, we've heard about the examples of the post-2010 World Cup issues around the construction sector, where the Competition Commission picked up issues of price fixing. It happened in our country here. And some of these companies have since gone under because of the unethical practices that they embarked on were not sustainable. And recently, here at home, we had a case of entities like Steinhoff, an entity that was founded more than 5 decades ago, which got embroiled in one of the biggest financial scandals in the country in decades. The senior executives in this particular entity, they saw what was going on. They looked the other way. The code of ethics was there in the company. As Martin Luther King said, the price of good men paid, the price that good men pay for indifference or to public affairs is to be ruled by evil people. We are aware of the challenges facing the built environment when it comes to transformation. Most of our black people in this industry rely heavily on government jobs and contracts. And some of the companies that have been involved in the post-World Cup scandals are still competing for lucrative contracts from government with previously marginalized individuals and companies. It is a fact. And there is enormous hunger in our people to break the barriers to entry in this industry. And I believe that the formation of organizations such as SABTACO is the result of trying to forge common destiny amongst such affected individuals. While some strides have been made over the years, we must admit that there's still a long way to go. But ladies and gentlemen, while we forge the way ahead, we need to guard against the trappings of wanting instant successes. The chairperson of the Public Service Commission, Mr. Sizani, once said that escaping poverty is of utmost importance, but the price of passage out of poverty should not be negating the principles of ethical leadership. We look to organizations such as SABTACO to develop young professionals in this industry who will understand that integrity should be a fundamental ingredient in ethical leadership, and that sometimes individuals need to give way to the needs of the collective. As you build your professional organization as SABTACO going forward, please note the words of Michael McCoby that a new model of leadership that expresses an ethic of self-development is needed, not just at the top, but at all levels of business, government, unions, and NGOs. Self-development is important. I think we spoke earlier on, so one of the speakers earlier on spoke about the need for people to be professional in the delivery of services. It is unethical, ladies and gentlemen, to bid for a government job that you have no capacity to do, only to sell it to someone else at the expense of the next deserving individual who could have been given a chance. Our people are still subjecting themselves to the humiliating phenomenon of fronting. While it is an individual's right to earn a living in any legitimate way you can, we need to discourage our people against such practices and at the same time assist them to develop the capacity to deliver for themselves and accumulate skills for themselves and for the legacy of their children. Those of us who make it in the industry carry the responsibility to inculcate the values of hard work and honesty to those who are still coming. We desperately need role models in this industry that will inspire the followers to achieve their best beyond the lifetime of the leaders. We need the leaders that understand that ethics is a basis of service excellence in governance as well as in leadership. And it should be through organizations such as SABTACO that our people learn the importance of collaboration and cooperation. Let us be motivated by the need to see some of our fellow practitioners and colleagues succeed rather than fall, so that we can climb to the top of their beds. Take note that those of us in the state-owned entities, like myself, understand your challenges and have every intention to see you succeed in your organization and in your individual endeavors. I come from the province that is predominantly rural, where there is a definite need for infrastructure. And we all know that infrastructure is the catalyst for business development in all countries. You go to the country like Rwanda, they achieved stability like long after we did. And they came from a ravaged country. But when you drive around there, you can see that the focus is on infrastructure development. And they are very professional about how they go about it. And you can see the results on the ground. There's a lot of this entrepreneurial development, but it is on the basis of the developing infrastructure, and which we are very much behind in this country. So we are saying that in our endeavor as state-owned entities that the government has entrusted with the responsibility of rolling out infrastructure, walk with us in this particular journey. Your skills and your professionalism are needed by ourselves and your government and your country to take this country forward. And in conclusion, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, if you visit the grave of the late Mangaliso Sobukwe, there is the following epitaph on his gravestone. It reads as thus: true leadership demands a complete subjugation of self, absolute honesty, integrity, uprightness of character, and fearlessness, and above all, a consuming love for one's people. So in whatever we do, let it not be inspired or motivated by self-interest and selfless gains, but by our love for our own country that we fought so hard for, and our need to leave a legacy for our children as they come. Thank you very much.